In what is turning out to be a very sort of strange and oddly creepy week, we now have Child's Play, the new Child's Play, which is a kind of... So you remember the Child's Play series, yeah?
Well, I remember them. I made a point of avoiding them.
Oh, okay, you were never interested?
No, well, I wasn't. It's not my thing.
No, not your thing. Okay, fine. So the original was a kind of, comedically inflected horror satire from the late 1980s, co-written and created by Don Mancini. Brad Dourif was the voice of the serial killer who, on his deathbed, is transferred into the body of a Chucky doll, good guy doll, and then, so the doll possessed by the spirit of a killer, and the spirit wants to get out of the doll and into a human person. That's the kind of basic Chucky setup. Spawned a series of sequels, one of which, Child's Play 3, went straight to video and then became involved in a horrible and largely bogus tabloid scandal. Then the series was reborn in the late 90s with Ronnie Yu's Bride of Chucky, which starred Jennifer Tilly, which I thought was really good fun. Then Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Cult of Chucky. So somehow the series rights are owned by MGM, and they've now made a reboot about which fans of the original series aren't pleased because Don Mancini, for example, isn't involved. Brad Dourif is not involved. There was an interview with Mancini in which he said, I created the character and nurtured the franchise for 3 decades. So when someone says, oh, yeah, we'd love to have your name on the film, it was hard not to feel like I was being patronised. They just wanted our approval, which I strenuously denied them. And this is now from the producers of it. So Aubrey Plaza is a single mum who's got a job working at a department store that is driving her nuts. And the store is part of a company that is now making these Buddy dolls. Buddy is basically like a kind of upgraded... Remember Furbies?
I remember Furbies. Yeah.
That they learnt to talk, or they learnt to respond to the voice. They were like learning toys. And now Alexa, Sorry to everybody.
Hey, Alexa, subscribe to Widdertainment.
Fine, he did it, not me. Okay, so this is basically like a doll that interfaces with all the appliances in your house. So it can connect to the cloud, it can control the television, it can do the heating and all that sort of stuff. In a factory, in a sweatshop factory where it's being made, a disgruntled worker who has just lost their job turns off all the inhibitors on one of the dolls, which then gets sent out and is defective because all its inhibitors, the violence inhibitors, everything have gone. Aubrey Plaza's character says, look, it's a defective doll. Can I take it home because I'm going to give it to present to my kid? And she gives it to her kid. And we all know, okay, fine, this is a defective doll, but hence the reboot is born. So whereas before what you had was the kind of the possessed demonic spirit, serial killer spirit, which wants to jump. Now what you have is a doll that is designed to be like an artificial intelligence, again, like the Steven Spielberg AI. And all the doll wants to do is to initially be loved, but obviously it's a faulty and defective doll. And it starts picking up on the rage and the anger of its new young owner in relation to people that he doesn't like, for example, his mother's new boyfriend. And the next thing you know, it's out there doing terrible things and no one believes him.
I saw Doreen outside. I think Chucky did something to her.
Sweetie, Chucky is a toy, okay? It broke, you got rid of it.
Mom, I saw him. I saw him following Doreen.
No, you didn't. Listen to what you're saying.
Mom, he's gonna kill her.
Chucky.
Why aren't you listening to me? I have it on Omar's phone. He's following Doreen. I can show you.
Why do you have Omar's phone?
I took it.
Why?
I had to. I had to follow Chucky, Mom.
Okay.
I'm not crazy, Mom.
Stay right here, okay?
Mom!
And you're coming to work with me.
He's trying to kill us!
Now, when this is at its best, it is like bad Toy Story because it's, the doll... Can we play now? Because what the doll wants to know, the doll instantly is voiced by Mark Hamill, whereas before it was, Brad Dourif, who was like, it sounded very, very much. Now it's this kind of lilty, wise, kind of sing-songy voice, which in a weird way is
good.
Oh, exactly. So it kind of, plus it's sort of, it makes more sense in as much as it's not a spirit of a killer jumping from one thing into another. It's a defective AI that basically has had its inhibitors turned off and wants to do what it thinks its owner wants it to do and then doesn't understand why. We can't play, can we play now? And actually, I thought that idea worked rather well. It runs out of steam a little bit towards the end, but much less than movies of this ilk tend to do. It has a creepy soundtrack by Bear McCreary, which I think works really well. It's got that kind of cracked nursery rhyme, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you sort of sound to it. And it's also got a nice amount of nostalgic retro gore involving things like garden implements of the type that if you were watching, I mean, one of the things that's in it, I mentioned before that Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 would come up. One of the things that's in it is a scene in which these kids are watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 on the television. Now, you have to remember that in the UK, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 was banned for decades. And it was one of the things that you couldn't get. And consequently, if you're somebody who grew up on banned video nasties, there's a sort of throwback retro gore charm to it. So it's not a masterpiece, but you know what? I think it's actually much better than it could have been, and it was certainly much better than I expected, and I enjoyed it much more because I thought, okay, you've managed to breathe new life into that, and heaven knows the series has had its ups and downs, and the ups have been very, very up. I mean, I saw either Cult or Curse of Chucky at Fright Fest, where it went down very well, where it played very well, but some of the other sequels have been not so great. But this, I thought, was a standalone series reboot, which, peculiar enough, for the second time this week, conjured up the ghost of Spielberg's AI. I mean, it's like you look at the central doll and you think, that's kind of David, but cross.